All right, let's just get right into it. There's absolutely nothing like that sudden sinking feeling in your stomach when you put the key in your door and it just won't turn. You're locked out. It's so frustrating. It's stressful, but hey, don't worry. We are going to walk through this together, step by step, and get you sorted out. So there you are, standing on your doorstep. Maybe the key is just completely jammed in the lock, or maybe the handle is loose and just spins around doing nothing. Your first instinct? Probably a little bit of panic, right? Followed by trying to just force it. Well, hang on. Before you do anything you might regret, let's take that panic and turn it into a solid, clear plan. So, first up, let's just acknowledge that feeling, that wave of, oh no, I'm actually stuck. It's totally normal. But getting past that initial panic is the first hurdle to fixing this without accidentally making things a whole lot worse. You know, a jammed door can throw your whole day off track, but the single most important thing you can do right now is just take a breath. Seriously, when we get frustrated, we tend to yank on the handle or force the key, and that can turn a pretty small, fixable problem into a really big and really expensive one. So a calm, step-by-step approach is going to be your best friend here. Okay, feeling a bit calmer? Good. Now let's put on our detective hats. Figuring out why the lock is jammed is it's the key to figuring out how to fix it. Yeah, pun definitely intended. So let's run down the usual suspects. Could be that the little parts inside the lock have just worn out over time. Happens all the time. Or get this, your door might be misaligned with the frame. You know how wood swells and shrinks with the weather? That's a huge cause. It could also just be a buildup of gunk and dust, or the worst case scenario, a piece of your key actually snapped off inside. Any of those ringing a bell? And that brings us to the golden rule, the big one. If you remember nothing else from this, remember this. Do not force the key. I'm serious. All the muscle in the world won't fix a delicate lock mechanism. What's way more likely to happen is you'll snap the key clean off, and trust me, that turns a simple jam into a much, much bigger headache. Right. Now that we know what not to do, let's talk about what you can do. This is the action part. The safe, simple things you can try right now, probably with stuff you already have. Here it is, your 4-step action plan. Super simple. We're going to start with lubricating the lock. Then we'll check the door's alignment. After that, we'll try a very gentle wiggle. And finally, we'll talk about when it might be okay to bring out the pliers. See, we're starting with the easiest, least invasive stuff first. So let's get to step 1. First up, lubrication. But wait, don't just grab any old can of oily stuff. You need to use a graphite or silicone-based spray. Here's why that's so important. These are what you'd call dry lubricants. They do their job without leaving behind a sticky, oily mess that's just going to attract more dirt and gunk later, which, you guessed it, will just jam up the lock all over again. And this slide says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got your heroes, graphite and silicone sprays. On the right, the stuff you absolutely want to avoid for locks, like some of those common oil-based products. They seem like a quick fix, but they actually make the problem worse in the long run by creating a sticky trap for dust. So stick with the stuff on the left. All right, on to a super easy diagnostic test. If you can, try using the lock with the door wide open. Just turn the key, see if the bolt slides in and out smoothly. If it does, great news. That means your lock is probably just fine. The problem is almost certainly that the door and the frame aren't lining up perfectly, so the bolt can't slide into the hole properly. Okay, let's talk about our last couple of DIY moves. If the lubricant didn't do the trick, try wiggling the key again. And when I say wiggle, I mean gently. We're talking tiny little movements, up, down, side to side, as you try to turn it. Now, if you can actually see a piece of a broken key sticking out, and this is a big and, only if you can get a really good grip on it, you can try to carefully pull it straight out with some needle-nosed pliers. But whatever you do, don't push it in any further. Okay, so we've covered the DIY playbook. But you know, a huge part of fixing any problem is knowing when to call for backup. So now, let's talk about the clear signs that it's time to put the tools down and pick up the phone to call a professional. Let's just pause here for a second and ask this question. You've used the right lubricant, you've checked the alignment, you've given it a gentle jiggle, and you're still standing on the wrong side of the door. If that's you, that's a pretty strong signal that this problem is bigger than a simple DIY fix. This table really just lays it all out. Your toolkit on the left is like a first aid kit. It's great for minor scrapes. The Pro's toolkit on the right, That's the surgeon's bag. They have specialized tools to get you in without destroying anything, gear to pull out broken parts from deep inside, and the skills to perfectly realign everything. They're equipped for the serious stuff. So, just to be crystal clear, here's your checklist. If our DIY steps didn't work, call a locksmith. If the key snapped off way down inside where you can't even see it, call a locksmith. If you hear weird grinding or clicking sounds when you try the key, that means something is broken inside, and you should definitely call a locksmith. And look, if this is the third time this old lock has given you grief, it's time for a professional. And here's the bottom line. Sometimes trying to save a few bucks by muscling through it yourself can lead to a splintered door frame or totally busted hardware, which will cost you way more to fix in the long run. Paying a locksmith isn't just for their time. It's for the peace of mind that the job will be done right. Honestly, it's often the cheapest option when you think about the potential damage you're avoiding. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last thing to think about. We've been focused on just getting you back inside your house right now, but maybe take a second to zoom out. Is this jammed lock just a random one-off annoyance? Or is it a warning sign? A little red flag that your home's first line of defense is getting old and unreliable? Maybe this whole frustrating situation is actually an opportunity to think about a real long-term security upgrade. Something to think about.